Good afternoon, and welcome to the first day of the 2025 AGTA American Gem Trade Association's Inspire Seminar Series, sponsored by the AGS, the American Gem Society. Grow your Instagram following fast. On stage with us this hour is the very popular graduate gemologist, appraiser, private jeweler, and Instagram content creator, Chris James Boehner of Chris James Gems. Chris is going to give us a behind-the-scenes look at how he grew his social media from just 300 followers to over 100,000 followers in just a few months. Yes, that's right. You heard me correctly. He grew his social media from 300 to over 100,000 in a few months. So this talk will offer you a step-by-step guidance on optimizing your Instagram, plus some practical tools and software tips for creating standout content. You'll leave here today with the knowledge of how you can go viral on social media. And he claims that it's easier than you think. All right, known for his friendly, down-to-earth, and gem and jewelry educational content, please join me in welcoming Chris James Boehner.
Thanks, Gary.
Thanks, Chris.
Can everybody hear me in the back? I got my mic on? Okay, awesome. Do I have any followers here? Oh, yeah, awesome. Thank you guys so much for following me. I really appreciate it. My name's Chris Boehner. I go by Chris James Gems on Instagram, and I've got a ton of followers on there. Now, this is not what my account looked like a couple years ago until I started really studying the algorithm, how it works, how to create standout content. And really, had I known then what I know now, I could grow a lot faster, a lot quicker. The backstory is I had been on Instagram for about a year and a half with basically no movement until I started using some of these strategies to really get my content picked up in the algorithm. So over the next 50 minutes, I'm going to really quickly run over social media facts and figures. I think you all know it's super important, but some of these numbers are going to really surprise you. I'm going to tell you my personal story, and I'm not going to hide anything. So everything that I've ever posted on social media, it's all there. So you can scroll all the way back down and see the really bad content I'm going to show you, and then how it evolved into what it is today. Then we're going to talk about account optimization, what you can do to your account before you even start posting content that's going to really help you get picked up in the algorithm and go viral. Then we're going to talk a little bit high level about content creation and strategies around that. We could talk for a week on this, but I have just a very short thing to follow there. And then we're going to have a Q&A. I'm going to try to leave 10 minutes or so at the end, but I'll be at the back if we go over on questions, and I'll be out there and happy to answer your questions. So social media facts and figures. How many people either first thing they woke up this morning or right before they went to bed were scrolling social media? Yeah, all of us. I know I do it every night. It's bad. You got the blue light, and it's probably not good for you. Right now, the best estimate of people on social media, 5 billion people in the world are on some form of social media. That's a big chunk of the human population. And does anyone know how much time the average user is spending on social media per day?
Too much?
Way too much. 144 minutes is the current estimate. So that's over 2 hours a day. People are on social media. That's where people's attention are, and that's where you need to be, whether you sell gems or whatever you do to get people's attention. You really need to be on social media. So we're going to talk mostly about Instagram, but the strategies I'm going to teach you do apply to other platforms as well. And you can run several accounts all posting the same content on different platforms. It's totally okay. So who remembers back in 2020, it was a really weird year, and we were really chronically online during that time because, well, there was really nothing else to do. And that's when we kind of figured out what the most engaging and addictive form of social media was. That was on TikTok, the dancing nurses, and all these funny videos we'd sit and watch. And now they've found that this is the most addictive form of social media, short form videos. It's not pictures, it's not anything else, it's short form video. In response to that, we had YouTube come out with YouTube Shorts, And of course, Instagram, when they saw how well TikTok was doing, was like, "Ugh, we need to compete here." They introduced Instagram Reels, and that's what we're really going to focus on today. So my story. I graduated from GIA with my GG in 2001. Right now, there is only 4 people in our class because we started in 2020, and I think we're the only class with a 100% pass rate on the 20 stone on the first day. You have to check me on that. And I figured, all right, what do I do? You graduate, you get your GG, now what, right? You're kind of like, the world's your oyster, but what do? I wanted to be a private jeweler, and I figured, well, I should start a social media page. And for our industry, really, Instagram's kind of the best because the age group's a little bit higher than TikTok, and it's just a very visual platform. And we do work with very visually appealing things, right? So I decided to start that account, and it didn't look like that at the beginning. I only had a couple hundred followers, people I knew from GIA, some of my friends that were interested in what I was doing, and I really sat there for a while. So this is how it started. I didn't grow up. In college, I got on Facebook, and I had a .edu address. It was right when it first came out, so I was one of the first people on there. We're posting text, right? We're giving little updates on text. Instagram comes out, and it's like, oh yeah, pictures. That's the picture app. We post pictures. So that's how I started on Instagram in 2021. And I've got a bit of a photography background, so I was like, hey, I could take some nice pictures, and I figure if I put these pictures up there, people are gonna buy my stuff, and I'm gonna get a ton of followers. It's gonna be awesome. That wasn't really the case. And so we can take a look at some of these in the analytics. And just something so you know, for the analytics, I went back after I went viral to grab some of these. It's going to show you the right trend, but the real numbers were probably much lower than this at the time. And just let me point out kind of what's going on here. So this is the analytics page. I got 35 likes, 0 comments, 2 sends, and 4 bookmarks. The most important part I want you guys to see on here is the reach. This is what's really important. That dark blue part on the side there, that's people who don't follow you that saw your content. That's really important for growth. We'll keep that in mind. And then the light blue is people who do follow you and saw your content. All right, so after that didn't work, I was like, well, I got to do video. But I wasn't using Instagram Reels, stupidly. I was just posting videos as posts. You can see it's a square crop on there. I didn't really do much. I just had a picture of this nice little sapphire ring and no music or anything else. I wrote a nice little caption in there. Probably nobody read that caption. But it's a video. It's capturing a little bit more attention. If we look at the analytics behind that, I got a bigger reach now. You can see that dark blue circle is starting to get a little bit bigger. 236 likes on that, 4 comments, 8 sends, and 18 bookmarks. So we're getting somewhere. We got a little video. It's not going viral or anything, but I'm kind of on the right track. And then my friend, she is in Honolulu, a real estate developer, and she had 10,000 followers. And I'm like at 200 at this time, 300. I'm like, how are you doing this? How do you have 10K followers? And she's like, oh, it's easy. It's this thing called trending audio. Instead of not having any audio in there, you put trending audio on there, and then because it's trending, it's going to take your content, it's going to push it to a ton of different people. So I was like, okay, I could try that. Let's look at a couple examples.
Don't mind if I do.
Look at this. Somebody come look at this. Look at this. Somebody come and look at this.
I don't think God put me on this earth to work hard. I think God put me on this earth to be an excellent vibe.
Sweet dreams are made of living. Who am I to disagree?
All right, a little different. I'm starting to get way better reach with these. 36,000 people had seen this, but I wasn't getting any followers. This is kind of more entertainment content. I heard some chuckles out there, some giggles. It's just kind of fun, entertaining. People swipe by it, they get a laugh, but it's not engaging enough or interesting enough for people to say, oh, I want to see more from this creator. So that's when I come up with this idea, storytelling. Why am I not telling a story really to grab people's attention? Because the human species, before we had the written word, we told stories. And so it's really deeply ingrained in us to listen to a good story. So I started experimenting with kind of some different angles by telling stories. So this was kind of my first attempt. And I got to say, I look at this up. It's embarrassing now because I would have cut it totally different, done it totally differently, but I'm going to share everything with you. It's behind the scenes.
How do gemologists identify gemstones? First, check the gemstone under magnification for chips, glue, inclusions, and other clues. Next, get a refractive index, RI, reading.
All right, so I told a little story there. I don't know about you guys, but before I got my GG, I had no idea how people identify gemstones. So people thought this was interesting. Now I'm reaching 40,000 people. You can see 27,000 in that dark blue circle. So I'm getting better reach out there. You can see I have a ton of plays, almost 1,000 likes on this. 100 people saved it, a bookmark. We kind of call that a silent like. It's something that they want to come back to later. So this is starting to perform better, but I'm still not getting followers. So everything changed when I found this at a flea market. I was like, oh, this could be a real antique brooch, and it was $1. So I was like, this would actually probably be pretty good content. I bet people would be interested to know how I figure out if it's real or if it's fake. And just a trigger warning here, I mispronounced an important word in here. And it may have been a blessing. I'll explain after the video. So I picked this up at a flea market for $1. It jumped out at me. It's nice 1920s, 1930s Art Deco piece. A brooch. I see these quite a lot when I was visiting antiques. So, I'm sure you never made that mistake.
Closer look, flipped it over, and I saw a pretty famous trademark stamped on there. So there's actually 2 trademark stamped on there, which is a little strange, but hey, I figure it's worth $1, so I'll pick it up. Check it out online. They're going for about $500 to $1,500, so hopefully this thing is real. Now when I get home, I have an electronic gold tester that I use. So first I'm going to test to see if this is real gold, and so far it's looking good. 14 karat gold on my first couple touches. Oh, but here, look, yeah, so it could be gold plated, not actually solid gold, so I'll have to run another test to see. So I have a high power magnet that I use for this, so I should have brought this with me. So yeah, it sticks, that means it's an alloy, not solid gold. Next I look at it under the microscope. If you can see that semicircle or that circle going around the outside, how it's a little bit different, it runs through the facets, it's not a good sign either. That's very characteristic of a garnet topped glass doublet. So the top of the gemstone is garnet, but the rest of it is blue glass. And if you look at the facet here, it's kind of kite facet on the left. You see how it's white and then the dark blue across the facet. Garnet topped glass doublet, and probably worth more than $1 as a fake, but not much more than that.
All right, so I said brooch, yes. And I had a lot of people comment and say, you idiot, it's a brooch. And I had people say, oh, is it brooch? I've been mispronouncing it this whole time. But then I later found out that people actually intentionally put mistakes in their videos because it drives engagement. So the whole reason I'm here in front of you could be because I mispronounced that one word. So that's why I say it was probably a blessing. Let's see how this one performed. Ooh, yes. 655,000 people saw this. Look at that dark blue circle. It's almost entirely dark blue. That means my content was getting fed to people who had never seen it before, and there's a greater chance more of those people are going to follow me because they're interested with this content. But you see it's 17,000 likes, 225 comments, 1,300 bookmarks, people who want to come back and see this video. So this is where things started to change. I posted that video on November 11th, 2022. And at this time, I'm still around that 200-300 follower area. And I post another video. And at this time, when that one started doing well, it took about a week for the algorithm to pick it up, but then I started getting follows. I'm at maybe like 2,000, 3,000 followers at this point, and I was like, I just want to double, triple down now. I want to do 3 reels a week, and I want to make them good quality reels and just see where I can go, because the algorithm's kind of figured out who I am and what I do. And so everything changed when I post this reel. So let's take a look at that one real quick.
A ring that was given to my wife at a very young age because they thought it was costume jewelry. So is it? Let's find out. So one of the first things you want to do is really give it a good clean, because this stuff is usually dirty. So then we want to go ahead and look at the inside of the ring, zoom in, see what we can find. And we have some obscured markings, but a 10K gold stamp on here. I'm going to pull out my magnet and see it does not attract, so it could be pure gold. I'm going to put it on the electronic gold tester here. See what reading we get. Looks to be about 10K, maybe even below 14K. Next we move over to the polariscope. So I'm going to cross the filters here, and I'm going to put in the ring. This will give us an idea of if this is singly refractive, doubly refractive, or something else. So I'm going to go ahead and spin right here, and we see that blinking, which means that this is a doubly refractive stone. It is a real gemstone in here. Next we go to the refractometer. I'm going to take a reading here and drop the ring on. We go inside. It's a 1.61 reading, characteristic of topaz. And now I'm going to pull out my diamond tester. Test the diamonds around on the outside, and you can hear the beep, beep, beep. That means it's real. This kind of diamond tester really can't tell between moissanite and diamond, so I just zoom in and I can confirm those are real diamonds on the outside. And then I look at the stone, it's eye clean, and that's very characteristic of topaz. So my wife was given a real diamond topaz ring as a child because they thought it was costume jewelry. You never know what might be hiding in your jewelry box. Go ahead and follow for more.
All right, so you ready for the analytics on this one? 1.9, this is a little bit old, it's over 2 million views now on this one. And you can see again, that dark circle is almost entirely dark. And I had a lot of people say, oh, this is such a cool story. I think a lot of people can relate to that one in particular. They inherit something, they're like, oh, it's just costume, don't worry about it. But this one really changed everything, because as this reel was taking off, 2 days later, I'm at 10K followers. So I gained about 7,000 followers just in the first 2 days. And I'm pretty happy at that point. I'm like, 10K, I'm good. But then 3 days later, I'm at 30,000 followers. And then a couple days after that, I'm at 60,000 followers. My phone's just blowing up. I had to turn off the notifications because I couldn't use my phone. I was just getting like, follow, like. And by December 31st, I have 100,000 followers. Wild. Totally changed everything. And just with that idea in mind, you're really just one video away from really blowing up on Instagram and changing your business in a very good way. So that's my personal story. Let's talk about how I did it, because just before I started blowing up, I did some account optimization, because I like to research, like, all right, how do you grow? How do you get viral? There's tons of YouTube content on that. And so what I liken it to is, I don't know if any of you have used an old pump like this before for a well, but before water comes out of that thing, you have to pump it. It's called priming the pump. And nothing comes out for a little while, but once it's primed, water starts coming out. So we want to prime your Instagram account for growth. So the first thing you really got to keep in mind is the algorithm. So all these different social media platforms have an algorithm, and the only job that algorithm has is to keep users using the social media. That's why that 144 minutes, that's why that's so high. And probably next year it's going to be higher, and it's going to keep ticking higher and higher. This algorithm is so good at figuring out you. They know who you are probably better than you know yourself. And it's a little creepy, but we can use it to our advantage here. And so everything we do when we're priming an account is you want to think that you're teaching the AI who you are. So who are you? What do you do? What do you talk about? And so we want to prime that so we can teach this algorithm who we are, so they know, all right, I know what this guy does. Gemologist, looking at gemstones, jewelry. I know people that like that stuff. I'm going to send it to them. That's kind of the goal. So the very first thing, high level, you got to find your niche. Maybe you have a business. Maybe you want to use this for something that's not jewelry related. What I'm going to teach you works for anything, any niche that you have. And the best way, I think, to find your niche is this little chart here. So the stuff you love, you know what that is. The stuff that you're good at, you probably have a pretty good idea of that as well. But the hard part is the stuff people want. And that is what the algorithm helps you figure out. Okay, and you want to be in that sweet spot in the middle. Once you figure all those three things out, that's where you can really get the fast growth on Instagram. So we are talking about Instagram. I mentioned this will work on TikTok. It'll work on YouTube. It'll work on X. It'll work on any of those different platforms. And one of the first questions I get is like, okay, well, I've been on Instagram for a little while. I've been posting for some stuff. I'm not getting much growth. So should I start a new account or should I just keep using my old account? If you have an old account and you've been posting all sorts of different random things on there and it's not really focused, you may want to start with a brand new account because the algorithm's probably pretty confused at that point of who you are, what you do, what you post. Sometimes if you have a personal account, like Julia, Jules with Jules, you guys probably know her, does all the celebrity jewelry stuff. She used her personal account, but the algorithm was able to figure that out as she continued posting content. So you still can use your old account. The other thing, has anyone bought followers before? I hope not. Have you done follow, unfollow, trying to get people? If you've used these black hat techniques, you're probably flagged by the algorithm, and they're not going to put your content out. These algorithms are so sophisticated now, they can see if you're trying to cheat, and they will not reward you for that. So if you've been doing a lot of those using bots, there's a bunch of different ways to kind of hack followers. We want to hack followers in an ethical way by providing very good content. Okay, that's how we want to get followers. Because it's no use getting, if you have 100,000 followers and they're just random people that never comment or do anything, the algorithm's not going to like that. They're like, well, they must post garbage all the time because no one's interacting with anything they're posting. They got 100K followers on there. All right, so a new account, old account, it's kind of on a case-by-case basis. I'm sure you kind of know where you are on that. Next, we want to switch to a creator account. You can also switch to a business account. You want one of those two other than the personal account. And the reason for that is one, you want to tell the algorithm, hey, I create things, or I'm a business, I'm going to promote things. The other thing is you get access to those analytics I was showing you. So that's really important as you're posting. We'll talk about that later, to see how you're performing when you put content out there, because you don't want to keep doing something that doesn't work over and over and over again, right? The next thing, and I think this is what the game changer was for me, is you want to be really careful who you follow on your new account, or the one that you're using for business. You want to follow people in your niche that have huge followings, okay? Because the algorithm is going to say, you know, if you're really big into antique jewelry and you follow all the big antique jewelry accounts, the algorithm's going to think, oh, there's like a good chance whatever content, since they're a content creator, it's probably going to match the same audience that follows those big accounts, right? So we're teaching just by following really big accounts. The next thing you can do in that same vein is you can follow hashtags. So if you go up to the search and type hashtag diamond, hashtag antique jewelry, anything like that, you're going to be able to follow that hashtag. And again, you're teaching the algorithm, okay, when they create content, there's a good chance it's going to have something to do with these hashtags that they're following. So again, priming the account. The next thing you want to do is work on your profile. So on your profile, you want to make it really intriguing for humans looking at it, that want to figure out who you are really quickly and decide if they want to follow you or not. But you also want to make it helpful for the algorithm. These algorithms are crazy now because they integrated AI. They're scanning your videos, they'll scan that photo, and they'll say like person, loop, gemstone, and it'll take those keywords and work them into the algorithm. So you want something niche specific. You can see me, I just have a loop with a gemstone. You know, people see that, they're like, oh, he's got that little magnifying glass thing that jewelers use. So yeah, he must be a jeweler or something. Chris James, gems, keyword. Appraiser, keyword. Private jeweler, keyword. Graduate gemologist, keyword. GIA, keyword. And then I have an online course and things that I sell to my followers in there. So when you're crafting that profile page, you want to make sure you're using keywords to help the algorithm and also humans that are reading that so they can really quickly figure out what it is that you're doing. So that's the end of the priming. You kind of need to do all that before you start creating content. So the algorithm kind of has a feel of who you are, and then they're going to kind of experiment with things with your content, who do you send it to as you start creating content. So let's talk about that a little bit, creating content. The tools you need, it's never been easier or cheaper to create content. Really all you need is a modern smartphone, right? Anything in the last 4 or 5 years. The cameras on these things are incredible. I started with this. I'll show you my setup in a second. Still, 80% I film on my iPhone, even though I have really nice macro lenses and cameras and all that stuff. You don't need it. My stuff that's gone the most viral, I only had a cell phone for, okay? Next, if you're going to buy only one thing, the ring light is the easiest first step. We could talk for a week about lighting, but this ring light, it's really easy to use, especially if you're doing face to camera, you're gonna be well lit. The other thing that's nice about it is that it has a stand on it. So if you need to stand your phone in a certain way and you have to be hands-free, it's got a stand built in, so you're kind of killing two birds, one stone with that. This was my basic setup for going viral. Really simple. Some gemology equipment, a ring light, and a stand for my phone built in. So you really don't need that much. It's more creativity. Software, CapCut. This is a little bit controversial right now because I was blocked from using this for about 2 days because it's owned by ByteDance, who owns TikTok. Hopefully that gets all cleared up. I was able to use a VPN to go to Canada and still use the software. But CapCut is the easiest video editing platform for short form content. The nice thing, even to say this gets blocked in 90 days or whatever it is, once you know how to use one of these video editors, you kind of know how to use all of them. But this is the best free short form video content on the planet, I think. And when I first started, I was using this. This is the cell phone, the app that you can download. And that's what I was doing at the beginning. And then they released a desktop app, and I like to use the desktop. So I edit on my desktop. They all sync together and everything if you want to do both. But it's a great platform. And some of you might wonder, well, why don't you just use the editor in Instagram? This has been my experience with that editor. I'll be 40 minutes into an edit, and it crashes on me. And then I've lost 40 minutes of work, and I'm really, really angry at that point. The other nice thing about using CapCut is, say you're doing a piece of content, you want it on TikTok, you want it on YouTube Shorts, you want it on Instagram Reels, you can export that video from CapCut and put it on each of those channels. If you use Instagram, when you download it from Instagram, it's going to put a watermark that says @ChrisJamesGems. You may have seen it in some of the earlier videos. The algorithms on all these platforms hate watermarks. And if they see you have an Instagram or a TikTok or whatever watermark on there, they're not going to prioritize it to send it out. And that includes your own personal watermarks. So if you've been putting your personal watermark on things, the algorithm hates that. So don't put any watermarks in your content. So that's really all the tools you need. Let's talk a little bit about content creation. How do you create a nice piece of content that people are going to enjoy and get some traction with? And just before we go into it, this is a creative process. There's no right and wrong way to do it. There's better ways to do it, which I'm going to show you, the best way to structure it for human viewers and also the algorithm. So let's talk about the types of content first. There's really, in my view, there's two types of content. There's entertainment, which is kind of what those short form reels when I was using trending audio. You get a chuckle out of people. If you're a really funny person, you got a good personality, you have an engaging way, and you want to talk to camera and that sort of thing, do the entertainment. You know, do you guys follow Bench Jeweler memes? Like, that's a really funny account on Instagram. He does humor really well. He does a good job with that and has a lot of followers. That's not really what I do, though. I'm educational. The entertainment one, you kind of have to hit a person maybe 5 or 6 times with that content to be like, oh yeah, I like this person, they're funny, I'm gonna follow them. Educational, if you teach something interesting, you probably will get the follower on the first one. So if you're really big into antique watches and you say something really interesting and they learn something, there's a good chance they're gonna follow you right away. So me, just personally, with my personality, I like educational content. I like to teach about gemology, so I focus on the educational side. I think it is a bit easier to go viral. So obviously first, you gotta come up with an idea. What the heck are you gonna talk about? It's a little tricky in the early days because you're kind of shooting in the dark. You know, I first was showing jewelry, and then you saw it kind of niche down, and then eventually, like, real or fake has become my bread and butter. That's what people know me for, but it just took time to kind of work down to that. So come up with some different ideas. You're gonna be checking the analytics to see what worked and what didn't work, scrap it, we try something else. The way I get a lot of content ideas, just from my followers. Okay, so pretty much on every reel, I'll get a ton of different questions. I did one yesterday for Heritage Auctions about, it was a natural sapphire pendant, and I said, some synthetic emeralds have inclusions, so just because it has inclusions doesn't mean it's gonna be natural. And then I got like 5 questions. Can you show us a synthetic emerald with inclusions? So yeah, I'm definitely gonna do some content on that. So I get ideas on that. This one, can you heat treat a diamond to achieve this color or a similar color? Oh, that's interesting, I'm gonna add it to my idea list. And some of you are like, well, I only got like 300 followers. I don't have anyone ask me questions. Well, go to my account scroll through the questions and get some ideas. I can't create content around all these questions. Or do that in your niche to whoever the big person is in there. See what questions people are asking and start creating content around those questions because there's an interest out there around those. So structuring your content, again, we want to do this with the algorithm in mind. This algorithm is looking at absolutely every single thing you do on that platform. So if you're scrolling Reels, and I encourage you as you personally scroll in Reels, kind of like take a step back and watch yourself do it and say like, all right, why did I swipe past that video? Why did this video capture my attention? Why did I watch this? Because just even watching non-related content, you're going to get a lot of ideas for yourself. And I should mention too, I forgot to mention, when you have your little business account or your content creator account, don't do any personal scrolling on it, okay? Use your personal account for that. Because if you do personal scrolling, the algorithm's going to think you're into all these other random things, and it's going to confuse it a little bit. So just want to mention that. So content creation, we want to get people's attention and watch our video. Because it wants to know, how long did this person watch this video? Did this person watch your entire video, go to your profile, and follow you? That's really, they love that. Algorithm loves it when people do that. Did they swipe by it in 1 second? Did they swipe by it in 5 seconds? Did they comment on it? Did they engage with you? Did they send you a DM based on that? These are all things that algorithm's looking for. So we want to structure our content to capture people's attention because our attention spans are super short on social media, right? Right now, they say 1 to 3 seconds, and this is getting lower and lower and lower and lower as we get better at identifying on social media, this looks interesting, this doesn't look interesting, swipe, 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 swipe. Okay, so what we need to do is we have to have a hook. So we need to have something really interesting at the very first couple seconds of the video. It can be some interesting video of some wild thing. It can be text written on the screen, that's a hook, or it can be spoken, ask a hook. For me, is this real or is it costume jewelry, okay? And because the one thing that we want to do with the hook is we want to create curiosity. Why? Like, why did they say this? What's this interesting thing I need to know? Why do I need to watch the rest of this video? And if you can create that curiosity, you got past the hardest hump, which is just grabbing people's attention as they're scrolling through there. So let's look at a couple example hooks. Don't make these 3 mistakes. So say don't make these 3 mistakes when buying your engagement ring. Already, anyone that's in the market for buying an engagement ring, they're going to watch your video, because they don't want to make a mistake with that first really expensive purchase that they're making. This tip will blow your mind and have a nice visual with that, okay? That works really well. I love this one. This feels illegal to know. Doesn't that grab your attention? If someone's like, well, this is obviously it's legal, but it feels illegal to know, it works so well. My 5 favorite gemstones, my 5 favorite anything you can think of. Because people are like, oh, they know me, I'm a gemologist, they might be interested in what my top 5 gemstones would be. And this might shock you, but again, grabbing people's attention, creating curiosity in those first couple steps. So we have our hook, and then we've got our content. I'm not going to go into content. That's where you can have your playground, whatever you want to talk about, however you want to structure it. You have your hook, your content, but we really need to focus on the last thing on here as well, which is the call to action. So you grab someone's attention, they watch your content, they like what you're talking about, they might like you. They're like, this person's really interesting, I like their voice, they're really funny. So we need to ask them to do something at the end of the video. And so with CTAs, for me, this is really common, please like and follow for more. So if you're trying to grow your account with followers, just ask them to follow you at the very end. Please share with a friend, so that's the little send button. The algorithm really likes it when people watch something and send it to one of their friends, so it's looking for that. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. So you're engaging with that post. The algorithm really likes that when people are engaging, and it can be, they don't really look to see like, hey, you're an idiot, you said brooch, or if it's, oh, this is a really interesting video. It still is going to register on there. If you're selling something, this is available, details are in the description, call to action, check the description, right? That's what we want them to do. So just real quick to go over that. So the hook, your content, and your call to action. Just have that loose framework in mind. And if you want more content tips, just go on YouTube. There's 1,000 people talking about different things and techniques and things that you can try to optimize your content. So you've posted your content, but you're not quite done yet with that piece. So something else I do is I engage with pretty much every single comment that I get. They like to have engaged creators on the platform. So when people guess, I'll put some emojis after it. If they ask a question, I'll answer it. Because a lot of my followers tell me, like, I love scrolling through your comments and just seeing an interesting question, and you give a nice long response to it. Okay? And it's also a way of me showing respect to my followers. They took time out of their day to watch my video, they had a question, and I'm going to answer that for them the best I can. And then after you've responded to comments, a couple days later, you check the analytics. How'd you do? What's the average watch time? 31 seconds. So I'm losing people around the 30-second mark. So I need to go back to my video and say, all right, what do I do around 30 seconds? Something boring might be happening in that 30 seconds. I need to optimize there. How much of my am I getting a good reach? Am I getting that dark blue circle really nice and filled out? Okay, so these are things that you just kind of keep in mind. And then you go back and start thinking, all right, well, what could I change for the next video? How could I do a better hook? I encourage people, you saw my early stuff. It's very embarrassing to me. But if you just get 1% better each time you post a video, if you watch my stuff now, it's much more polished, it's much more tight, and you just kind of learn as you go along, okay? Now let's quickly talk about best practices for growth, because I'm sure people will have questions on this. Reels, 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 reels for growth. Don't do anything else if you're focused on growth. Okay, if you do stories, and you should do stories, throw a story or two, that's kind of your random playground. If you do want to put up random things like dinner or just stuff where people get to know you better, you can do that in the stories, but it's only going to reach your current followers. That's not really going to reach new followers at all. 30 to 90 seconds right now seems to be doing well. The algorithm changes. So this time last year, you could do a 6-second reel with just some video in the background, and you wrote a really long caption. So people would watch it, they'd click the caption, and then they would read it, and that reel would just go over and over and over and over in the background. And people were getting 10,000 or 10 million views on these things. If you do that now, it doesn't work. Now, I'm not saying you can't do a 20-second reel or a 5-second reel. You can try that, see if it works. It might work for you with the type of content you're doing. But right now, the rule of thumb is 30 to 90 seconds. Next is consistency. You're a creator. This does turn into a job if you get big. I spend a lot of my time creating content, coming up with ideas on Instagram. So they want to see consistency. So say, for example, you've got 2 days a month that you can sit down and actually really create content, film and script things out, come up with hooks. The worst thing to do would be create 10 pieces of content, post all that 1 week, and then for 3 weeks do nothing. Instead, you would want to take 2 or 3 reels and do those every week. And then the next month, you spend your 2 days creating content, and then drip those out over that time period. Okay? For growth, I'd encourage you to strive for 3 quality reels a week. That should be your baseline goal. It's not easy, especially when you're not quite sure and you're always having to be creative coming up with things. Something in there is going to hit. And then once you have something hit, you do more and more and more of that. So you double, triple down on the things that work, and then the things that are not working, maybe you rework them later, maybe you just forget it, and people just don't like this, so I'm not going to do it anymore. And then I put the word quality in there. Don't do my little trending audio reels where I was like, oh, a picture is a reel? Don't mind if I do, right? That's a super lazy, easy one to do, and it takes a couple minutes, but it's not that engaging. I'm not getting followers out of it. So you want 3 quality reels a week. I'm sure I'll get a question about hashtags. They do not matter anymore. And that is because these algorithms are so sophisticated. They're analyzing your speech, your video. They're seeing, I've seen videos of this where they have AI scan a video and it pulls all the keywords out of your video and feeds that into the algorithm. It's wild. The little boxes kind of pop up on everything. So they know what your content is. And they know what your description says, and they know who you are as a creator, hopefully, if you followed the earlier steps. So you can use no hashtags, but if you are going to use them, only do up to 5. You don't need any more than that. And on the note of hashtags, you want them very specific to what it is, what you have in your video. So what people were doing before is they would put hashtag FYP, For You page. That's got like 10 billion views on that hashtag. Now the algorithm will actually penalize you for that because they see you're trying to have like a cheap hack to get into the For You page. You do that with quality content, not just by putting that FUP hashtag on there. So avoid any hashtag that has nothing to do with what you're talking about, okay? Just make it as specific as possible. And so I gave a lot of information here. You're obviously going to get frustrated. I get so frustrated sometimes trying to figure something out. You know, on CapCut, it's like, well, how do you do the voiceover? My microphone's not working. I don't know how to do this edit. How do I do a transition in here? All of this information is on YouTube. There are so many people out there that are focused on helping creators create content. So whenever you have a question, just go on YouTube and search whatever problem you have. I can't think of any good hooks for this. YouTube. There'll be a person going through 50 different hooks. It'll give you some ideas. Use one of them, create your content on it. All right. And just before we get into the Q&A, I'll leave you with this thought, because you saw my first stuff wasn't very good. It wasn't very engaging. It didn't get me many followers. But there's a really good thing about bad content. And that's nobody really sees it, because the algorithm's not going to pick it up and serve it to people, because it's going to get people off their platform. All right? So don't be afraid. You know, start experimenting, coming up with different ideas. Get it out there. Check your analytics. See if it's working. And if it is, double, triple down on that. And you're going to get this crazy growth spurt that I saw at the end of 2022. So just post it.
Who wants to be first?
I'll be first.
Oh,
Yeah.
no.
Okay.
You said this grows into almost a full-time job, trying to keep up 3 a week, whatever, okay, and you're a jeweler appraiser. When do you get to do your support work?
My what work?
When do you get to do your support work
Oh.
as a jeweler and appraiser? You're answering questions on this, and how do you find that balance?
There is no balance, unfortunately. You just got to put more hours in. You know, once you get a big following, you can start to build a business around it. It's kind of the tricky thing. So if you have a business, when you blow up on Instagram, it's really easy. You just send people to your business to buy, you know, whatever it is that you already have established. For me, I didn't have a big established business or anything like that. So I've actually had to, after I went viral, I spent a lot of time working on, you know, all right, how do I build a business around this following on there? So I do more sponsorship work at this point. I have an online course that I created, not to identify real gems, but I can teach people how to quickly identify costume jewelry, which is some basic equipment. A lot of people were asking me for that, so I have an online course. So basically, I'm trying to move more of my work to Instagram and then monetize that so I can go cut down on my other work that I was doing. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
Question. Yes.
Can you show us sample of good quality reels?
Of a good quality reel?
Reels, yeah.
I don't have any on my laptop loaded up, but if you go to Chris James Gems,
Okay.
you can see my modern stuff, so kind of how things have gone through. But you know, it's a good point. Like I didn't mention this, but if you're stuck on ideas, do this on your personal account, but start scrolling, because the stuff you see scrolling is performing really well. Check how many people liked it. It'll have like 20,000 likes or something. So it's going to feed you good performing content. So you can watch that and start to get ideas for yourself, how you can transition it to fit kind of more what you do. Yeah.
Who's next? Yes.
3 questions. You had mentioned followers. Paid ads that you do that gets followers, do you recommend doing those as far as like, it means market, you know, marketing, so.
I don't usually recommend that, because I would prefer to spend, that's kind of a shortcut to do it, but your content has to be good. So I would say the best time to use that, if you have a really good piece of content that's performing well, you're checking out the analytics, and then you'll see kind of like a peak, like I kind of peaked at the end of 2022 with that one reel. As that was going down, that would have been a good time to throw advertising behind that one, because I know people like it, I know it's performing well, it's gonna be money well spent. But if you do a reel and you're like, ugh, I don't know if people are gonna like this, but I'm gonna put money behind it to get views, you know, it's better to experiment with something. It's better to put that money behind something you know that works, rather than it's like, I think this will work, here's a bunch of money behind it. Does that make sense? Okay.
So your logo, a person versus an image that's logo or anything like that?
People like people.
People.
Yeah, so I think you can put a logo on there. I think it's harder. I think people are more distrustful of a company in general, but they want to see that personality behind the company. So just having whoever owns the company or whatever, having that, I think you'll get more followers that way than using a logo.
Last question. So old content that we already have, if we create a new account, can you download that content so you don't lose it?
Oh yeah, you can download it from Instagram. And that's another good reason to use CapCut, because you would have all those files saved in there. And reposting it under a new account, sometimes that can flag it a little bit, saying, oh, they're stealing content from someone else. But if it's in CapCut, you can make a couple little adjustments to it, maybe reorder things a little bit, and then export that video, upload that, and then that's not going to trigger any suppression.
Chris, you have over 100,000 followers. How many questions do you get typically, and how much time do you spend answering those questions?
You know, I kind of do it periods throughout the day. So I post on Tuesdays and Fridays, more or less around 11 a.m., and I always block time out for that. So I post it. I don't schedule it to post. I post it myself, and then I sit down and I start answering questions. So any that I missed on the last reel, I start answering that, warming up the algorithm. I have the new questions coming in. I start answering those as well. And I'll do those in maybe 30-minute blocks. And then throughout the day, give it 2 hours. I go back, scroll to the bottom of my comments, respond to everything. At night, scroll, and do that as well, yeah.
Question, yes.
I missed the beginning, and I hope I'm not out of line. Basically, why did you choose Instagram, and which other social media would you say is good for us?
You did miss that. It's okay. Yeah, so Instagram I like the most because it has, most of my followers are between the ages of 24 and 45. And so those people are starting to get some money and they're able to buy jewelry at that point. TikTok trends a lot lower. So they're generally younger age people on there, though that is even starting to change. So that may start to get out of date pretty soon. I just like Instagram because I feel like it's the social media company of our industry because it's so visual on everything and it's really focused on nice video, nice pictures, that sort of thing. So, yeah.
Any other one you would like to?
I may branch out to YouTube. You make a lot more money on YouTube. I think, when I get these viral reels, I'll get a check for like $17 or something like that for the advertising stuff. But for YouTube, you actually will get a lot more of the advertiser revenue. It's a 50-50 split rather than like a 97.3% split. So,
Yes, right here.
You just sort of stumbled right into one of my questions. I was going to ask, so your 100,000 followers, how does that translate into business for you as a gemologist? And then also you just mentioned that advertising and getting a check. So
yeah, I wouldn't rely on advertiser revenue on Instagram. But yeah, I have sponsorships, so I have sponsored content. I work with Heritage Auctions, so I'll go down there and work with some of their pieces, and I'll do videos on that, and I direct them to the auction. So that's one. I have an online course. I'm always experimenting on different business models, but it really was kind of, you have to build the plane as you're taking off because these followers just, they came like crazy. I wasn't expecting it at all. And I had to put on I have a very basic online store with some of the real jewelry that I show that I can put on there. But yeah, it's entrepreneurship really. It's you trying to figure out, how can you monetize this? Because obviously you're spending a ton of time on this, and I'm helping a lot of people, and I love that. There's people that are getting into gemology because they watch these videos. They're like, this is so cool. I want to do this. Some of the younger people.
So not to beat this horse too much, but so you just mentioned you have an online store where people can buy products. So you put in this time, you got all these people. Are you finding that those sales have gone up, or are those other opportunities where you're making money with appearances or sponsorships? Is that what has grown for you?
Yeah, they vary over time. Q4 you make more sales, right, before Christmas. So yeah, I've definitely had a lot more influx, and I have a lot of people that reach out to me and be like, I trust you. Tell me what I should do here, and then I'll do custom for people if I need to source a gem and that sort of thing. But yeah, I've had a big increase in that. Just people I would have never met without social media. Yeah.
Yes, question right here.
Yes, you said that there is no longer a need of writing hashtags because the algorithm is so advanced now that it will pick up from your language, I mean for your speech, it will pick up the keywords, right? So my question is for us who have markets in an English-speaking language, what language does the algorithm understand or speaks?
All of them.
Can pick up the keywords.
All of them.
All of them.
Yeah, every language. Yeah, if I was using Mandarin to do some of these, it would pick up Mandarin and find the keywords in Mandarin. Might have trouble with some of my pronunciation of it, but But definitely, yeah, in your native language, especially if that's who your clientele is. What language do you speak? What's your native language?
Is it a French or Mandarin?
Yeah, French or Mandarin. Yeah, so doing content in that, there's actually not that much content there for those people who don't speak English. So it would be a good niche for you to maybe do it in that language as opposed to doing it in English. Yeah.
Michael, did you have a question? No? Go ahead.
And you mentioned that you don't schedule your posts.
Mhm.
Does scheduling posts affect the algorithm?
I'm not 100% sure. I feel like it does.
Okay.
But I just do it. So I schedule it in my calendar, so I'm always doing it. And then if you schedule, you can only do it, say, 11 o'clock, 11:05, 11:10. I always post mine, I try to at like 11:02. Because I know that it doesn't really matter. People ask me, when's the best time to post? It doesn't really matter anymore, because if you have good content, it's going to get pushed out. It's just, I know that the algorithm knows I like to post on this day and that day. So I try to, with the consistency I talked about, that's what I really try to focus on. Yeah.
Yes, right here. Yeah. Go ahead.
Why have you chosen not to pay for a verified account?
I don't know. I may do it. I haven't needed to, I guess. But I may do that. And you can verify businesses on there now, too. So I may do that and turn it into a business account. But yeah, I just haven't. Not something I've done. Yeah.
Go ahead.
How would you balance doing the traditional post and reels at the same time?
If you're growing, 98% reels. Yeah. You can engage with the carousel and images and that sort of thing. That's engaging your current followers. The view's going to be way lower on it. But the reels are really designed, since they're so addictive, that's if you make something addictive that's going to keep people on the platform, they're going to push that out to a ton of people. And not random people. Again, they know so much about you. So if they're like, oh, they like this diamond ring reel 2 weeks ago, let's feed them this diamond ring and see if they like it. So that's the nice thing about the algorithm, because you don't have a bunch of random people looking at your content. It's really specific. We've got free access to this super powerful thing, and all we have to do is create content, and it's going to go out and find people who actually are interested in what we do. So it's super powerful. People hate the algorithm. I really love the algorithm.
Yes, go ahead. Right here.
How do you physically conduct the transaction
Online?
from Instagram?
I usually send people to a Shopify site. Is that me? I usually send people to a Shopify site. If I'm selling a piece, it's my online course. I have an online, there's a place where I can take a credit card or PayPal on there. Yeah.
Yes, go ahead.
How do you send them to your Shopify?
So there's a couple ways to do it.
Real.
In Reel, I use this really cool program called ManyChat, and it's Instagram verified. You don't lose followers from using this, but it plugs into your account, and you can do keywords. So if they're watching my video, and I'm showing the dicroscope, I'm like, oh, by the way, I have a free lesson on this dicroscope. If you comment lesson, I'll DM you a link to that lesson. So what it does, and I don't have to do anything. Someone writes lesson, it automatically replies to them and says, check your DMs, just sent you a link. They go to their DMs, they click, they put in their email address, and then I send them the link to the lesson, and I get their email address. That's another good thing. You do want to start trying to collect email addresses, because say, God forbid, you get shut down for some reason or the platform gets banned, you want to be able to still have at least some of your followers' contact information, right? So ManyChat's a really cool plugin that works well for that. Yeah, or you can always, link in bio is really common too. So on my screen there, I had a link tree, and you can put tons and tons of links in there. So you could say,
Mention something like that in the reel?
I do towards the end. That's call to action. Comment the word lesson for a free lesson. Yeah, or I say check link in bio. Yeah.
One last question.
There's someone you had your hand up for a while.
I was just asking if you thought it helped at all to actually edit in the platform versus CapCut.
I have a feeling it does. I think Instagram likes it. So my ones that went viral, they were edited in Instagram really early. It's so, when it crashes, it's the worst. And if you're doing short reels that are just maybe 15 seconds or something like that, if it crashes, it's not a big deal. But for me, all of my reels are 1:30, which is the max length for a reel, because I put a ton of information in there, and it's unusual. Most people don't do 1:30 reels. But it was just, it was too much of a waste of time if it crashed on me. But for shorter stuff, yeah, you can use that, especially if you're only posting on Instagram. you may want to try it. One thing I do to kind of work with that is that I never put my title in CapCut, and I use their in-editor to do my title. So I'm at least using a little bit of it, but it's not labor intensive. Yeah. Yeah.
So I tried hiring a VA in the Philippines to do with my social media.
Yeah.
And because I was trying to get out of actually doing it right.
Mm.
And then every time they post something, I only get a few hundred views. And then every time I post it, it'll get thousands. Is there just like a thing that they just know that I'm not doing it?
It's your IP address. And they fingerprinted your account, so if somebody else is logged into your account posting for you, that's kind of one of those weird niche things. So when I'm here in Tucson and I'm posting, I'm never connected to Wi-Fi. I only do it off data because I want them to know it's coming from my phone, even though I'm not at my home posting from that. So that's like a really fine thing, but that's probably why. They see it coming from the Philippines and they're like, what the heck, why is it coming from the Philippines? Yeah.
So would it maybe work if he like blocked his location or something?
His IP or
Just not do that.
yeah, just I'd have them send you the finished product and then you post it. It'll work better. They don't like that. Even if you work with an agency and they get into your analytics, like you give them a login, they're still seeing IPs from different places, and it doesn't really like that. Even connecting through a VPN, they'll have a blacklist like, oh, this is a really common VPN, so that's probably not the person posting. So, good question.
Terrific.
All right.
Chris,
Well, thanks
thank you.
everyone. I appreciate it.